Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we have F150 2012 and you're watching this do-it-yourself channel. The issue is that the front wheels are not engaging, so only rear wheels drive this vehicle right now. And with this setup, it's a vacuum lockers, so the vacuum lines go to the lockers and control them. The interesting fact is that when the vacuum is not applied, that's when the lockers get engaged and you get the power to the front wheels. So basically, if vacuum system fails, which happens, your wheels will be engaged all the time. In our case, doesn't matter if we apply that vacuum or not, the wheels are not engaged. So behind the wheel there is a locking mechanism, and most likely it wore out, so we will do replacement of it. So let's get started. Alright, so to get that actuator out, we need to remove a few things, and we will start with the tie rod, and that is 21 mil socket. That will do the job. So we'll just get it on our impact, get that removed. To get it off, we need to apply a few hits with the hammer. So we go against the wheel knuckle a few times and then just pry it out. It's a good idea to use some ear protection for that. And we can put this aside for now. Next, we can go ahead and remove those vacuum hoses, and there is the clamp that's supposed to hold them in place, but that is broken. So we'll try to fix that. Next thing that we will do, we will remove this axle nut cap. This seems to be sitting quite tight. Apply some WD-40. Yeah, this one sits quite tight. Okay, I don't want to damage that cap more than I need to, so let's go with the chisel around and try to get it loose, and it's moving, which is a good sign. The other side went well, just with the channel lock pliers. Okay, so next we need to remove this 13mm nut. This is great. So next we want to push the axle out. Normally it's greased inside, so it shouldn't be seized. Alright, next we'll go ahead and remove few brackets that hold the brake lines and ABS line. Since we won't be removing the brakes, we need to make sure that we have enough of wiggle room on all the hoses. So also remove this bracket over here. Those are just 10mm bolts, so easy to use. So next we'll actually pull this ABS cable from here to give it more room, from here as well as from the top. So now all our hoses are quite loose, have enough of play. Next we'll remove upper ball joint nut, and you will need swivel for that if you use an impact. So this ball joint has tons of grease on it, so I'm not exactly sure how good it is, but I'll try to clean it. Okay, considering that there was tons of water and like this boot is gone, I don't think it will be good, but we will check when we disconnect the knuckle. So same procedure as before. We use some ear protection and we start hammering until it gets loose. Like that. So at this point we'll try to push our axle a bit more out if we can. This is all it can go. While we move the knuckle out, we need to watch the wires and cables just to make sure that we are not stressing them too much. We will do this now. So seems good. This is loose, this is loose. This is actually not bad yet. So that boot is completely gone. But because there is fresh grease, it's still a little bit clunky, but okay. So I guess this will stay like that for now. Okay, so now we will try to pull this axle out. On the other side, it came all the way out. On this side, it seems like we might need to get this loose first. So that's 8mm socket, and we will use 1/4" impact. There are 3 bolts. So 1, 2, and the third one is just over there. Normally this actuator comes with new bolts. So now we'll just give it push, get it out, just like that. As I mentioned, on the other side it got loose just fine. The axle came out just fine. So this is what we're replacing. The other side, this part actually was separated. This O-ring, this white plastic was broken. So I just want to guys quickly show you how this works. So right now there is vacuum in the system. The track is running. So if I apply the vacuum, that part go inside and it locks. So in this position, this lock sits only on the wheel part, on this sprocket. But when we apply vacuum, it moves out and engages the axle too. So at this point I will just go ahead and clean all the grease on the axle and around the wheel bearing, around that sprocket. So to clean that gear inside, it might be a little bit tedious process, but you want to make sure that you get everything out, because when you disassemble this actuator, the dust and stones and sand goes in. And if you don't clean it, your lock won't work properly. So you just need to go all the way around and make sure that it's nice and clean. before you apply fresh grease. Looks good. Okay, next what we need to do, we need to grab the new actuator, and I will leave a link in the description to get it on Amazon. We take some bearing grease, we apply the grease inside the actuator, on the bearing and on the axle. So let me just do that. And you want to be generous with grease, because all those sprockets inside, they will be engaging us pretty much all the time and disengaging, because when you shut the vehicle down, the vacuum is lost and it will be engaged. As soon as you start, it's disengaged, and then obviously every time you engage it on purpose. So just make sure that this is nice and greasy, the seals inside have enough grease. I'll actually put a bit more in between. Pack it with grease. Next we will put the grease inside of here on this sprocket. No, actually we cannot see. Apologies for that. So basically on the sprocket that is on a wheel bearing, same thing, we want to make sure that it's all covered in grease, as well as the axle, but that one we will do last when it's kind of pointed into the bearing. Okay, now we will grab our actuator and we will get the axle kind of pointed as we did before. So now just need to make sure that that actuator sits nicely and goes on a sprocket on the wheel bearing. Looks good. So next we will grab 3 new bolts. This time they were provided. Honestly, the old one also looks okay. Might be difficult to open this when your gloves are in grease. We'll just get those started. So there are 3 of them. One just behind. So now when they are started, we can get them snug with the impact. As well as the other one. Next we will torque them to roughly 90 inch-pounds. I don't have a reference for that, just judging by the size of the bolts, so don't quote me on that. We have 90, and 90. So that is done. There is the old bolt that we want to grab. Okay, so at this point we will apply more grease on the axle itself. So main thing is that that sprocket is covered in grease, because that's where the actuator slides on and off. So we want that to be smooth, as well as we put some grease where the seal is. Seal comes with the actuator too, and a little bit on the axle. So long story short, we want grease to be everywhere in this case, because that is sealed environment and there are moving parts inside. Okay, so next, as I said, we will align the axle to go into the bearing. And since we don't have any vacuum now, we want to make sure that that axle aligns with that sprocket and goes in how it's supposed to. I think it went in. So now we will just get upper ball joint started so that stays in place for us. Grab a nut. That should be good for now. Okay, as you can see, the axle is not in all the way. And there are two things that could be holding. One is rubber seal, which is expected, so we'll need to apply some pressure for this axle to go in. The other one is that sprocket. So if it's disaligned, it will not go in, and you don't want to apply pressure. You don't want to force it. You want it to go in, find the right position and go in. So we'll just rotate the axle and make sure that it comes out like this. So that's exactly what we're hoping for. So we'll put our 13 mil nut, and at this point we can get it snug and torque it. So just 13 mil, and the torque for this is only 25 foot-pounds. So we'll just use a torque wrench and we'll torque it. So that's 25 foot-pounds. That's all we need. So we can reinstall this cap and just gently hammer it in. Next we will get the upper ball joint tight. So if your rubber boot on a ball joint is good, you potentially want to watch, so when you spin it with the impact, if the inner part spins, it can damage the boot. So there is a place to hold it. So don't blindly just go with the impact. This one is gone, so we don't worry about it. So that is snug. Next we will put the tie rod back into, and we'll install also that 21 mil nut. So get it started, get it snug. Now we will torque them both to 85 foot-pounds. Good. Considering the condition of the upper ball joint, we will put some grease in it just to push out all the water and dust that is inside. As we know, I cleaned it as much as I could, but fresh grease will not hurt. There's plenty now. Next we will install the vacuum hoses. So my understanding is this is the supply, or actually the hose that vacuum comes in, the big one. The small one is just a breather. So we will get them both on. As you remember, we took a few things apart on this side. So we will get this bracket on, and this one, the bolt is kind of sharp one, self-tapping, even though it's not really is, but that's the other one is different. So we'll get that one in. We will push the ABS cable clips in. So now we have another bracket with the brake line, also 10 mil. This one is different. This one is not self-tapping. So get that one in. Then we will need to switch to 8 mil socket and get one of those bolts in place. And this one actually is the same as the one that holds the actuator. So it'll actually go in place because the actuator bolts are in much better shape than this one is. And that's 8 mil. We'll get that snug. And that should be it. Last thing would be to install the wheel and torque it to 150 foot-pounds. I will be replacing the line, so I will wait with the wheels, but in the next video I'll show how to replace all those lines. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe, and as always, just do it yourself.